and examples with you. And exceptionally excited to have Brandon Mathia from Adaptive Audience joining us to share some specific stories from some of the work he's been doing. So I think it's going to be a great webinar. Let's get started. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Casey Carey. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Odometry. And for the past 15 years, I've been pursuing a passionate mission of helping marketers do better marketing, whether that's through data, technology, or services. And so really excited about some of the work that's being done around marketing attribution, and definitely there's some good things to share here. A little bit about Odometry, our sponsor for this webinar series. Odometry powers more intelligent marketing, and we do that by providing advanced marketing attribution and optimization solutions. Currently, we have 75+ brands and their agency partners who take advantage of these solutions, and they're primarily in what I would consider to be kind of more direct response verticals, such as auto, telecom, technology, travel, leisure, financial services, and the retail verticals. Also, I just wanted to take a moment and share with everybody who's on the webinar some info about the Cross-Channel Marketing Optimization Summit. This is our second event that we're holding, April 30th through May 2nd in Austin, Texas. And if you haven't heard of the XCMO Summit, it's a unique event in that it's focused really on marketing and analytics across channels to drive overall performance across those channels. And kind of target attendees are CMOs, marketing leaders, heads of marketing analytics, and agency execs. We expect about 125 attendees this year in Austin. It's a fairly intimate, smaller event, great peer-to-peer conversations, excellent content. Tina Moffett is one of our keynotes. If you don't know Tina, she's the lead analyst in the customer intelligence practice at Forrester, and really the expert and thought leader on marketing mix modeling and cross-channel marketing attribution. As well as we're excited to have the head of analytics from USAA on that, as well as some very interesting talks from a couple of the creative directors who worked on the Old Spice, Your Man Should Smell Like a Man campaign, as well as some others. So the program's shaping up nicely, and we'd love to have you come. So check out the website at www.xcmo.com, and through this week there's an early bird which is $500 off. So if you're interested in going, take advantage of that. We'd love to see you there. So today's agenda, I'm going to do a quick recap of the series. Like I said earlier, this is number 4 in the series, and so just going to take a step back and kind of provide context for how we got to where we are. Then I'm going to go through some very specific insights and optimization examples from some of our customers. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Brandon's going to talk about specific work that he's been doing with a big box retailer. And then as time allows, we'll do some Q&A. So the series overall, the playbook series that we put together really kind of follows 4 steps: setting a direction, creating trust in the data, driving clarity and action, which ultimately leads to business results. And as we talk about kind of setting the framework here, a comprehensive marketing attribution solution, what we're really talking about as user level data, as we like to say, all channels, all data, bringing all that data together where it's across some of your paid media or your own media, bringing all those touch points, impressions, clicks, converting and non-converting engagements, and those actions occur across devices, so mapping devices to the user level so we can do user level attribution. Obviously your target market is broken into audiences as well as you have CRM data on those audiences, so you want to bring that to bear as part of your analysis. And then those are tied to transactions that occur both online on websites, but maybe offline in call centers, kiosks, brick and mortar stores, dealerships, etc. And then across those, really looking at your various KPIs and drilling down into the data in terms of channels, sub-channels, sources, campaigns, even to the placement and creative levels. So putting together a holistic, comprehensive marketing performance analytics solution really is what we're talking about. a lot of people, when they talk about attribution, think about the rule set or the model that actually creates the attribution. I always kind of refer to that as that's the drill bit. It's the part that kind of makes it happen. But ultimately, what you get out of it and the business value you drive is much bigger than just the attribution model itself. It's all the insights and ability to look at the interaction, interplay between all these elements and how they work together and areas to actually improve that. So webinar 1 was about setting your direction for your attribution initiative, and kind of key points there was obviously clearly define your objectives and scope. This can be a small initiative or it could be a large initiative. So really look at each aspect of it and decide kind of what do we want to bite off to start with. Ultimately, where do we aspire to go, and what's going to keep us from achieving that. Once you've kind of done that, you can lay out a roadmap, a phased roadmap of kind of which channels, what data, which KPIs do we want to start with, and then how are we going to build that over time to get to the solution that we ultimately desire. And then once you have that, obviously creating a business case for your investment. What kind of improvements in performance are you likely to see from each of these activities of putting the attribution solution in place, and then what's the cost associated with that, both internal in terms of resources, as well as external, whether you're working with a third-party vendor or an analytics agency or someone to set that up. As we move on to webinar 2, we really talked about creating a data foundation that you can trust. And this is important. Anybody who's worked in marketing analytics knows you have to be able to trust the data because ultimately if you're going to use it to make decisions, to drive business, you have to have trust that those decisions are informed by solid information. So one, begin with the end in mind. There's a lot of data, a lot of complexity that you can bring into this. So really figure out what it is that's going to matter and what you need to have to make that happen, and balance that against kind of the costs and complexities associated with it. And then have a vision for how you're going to use the insights to drive different activities. As always, it's not measurement for measurement's sake. It's measurement to drive business actions. So when you say we want to get this data to measure this outcome, keep in mind, if I have that answer, what could I possibly do different to impact the business? Work your way up from the tree. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, easy to collect, easy to compile sources of data, the ones that drive the most business value. Start there, and then over time add more channels, more data, more complexity as appropriate. And then ultimately move from measuring activity to measuring value as your basis of measurement. Ultimately, hope you aspire to really understanding the value of the activities that are being created rather than just counting the activities. Webinar 3 was then about kind of creating clarity in the actions that ultimately drive results. So select an attribution approach based on your business needs. A rules-based model may actually be most appropriate for your business, depending on type of business, complexity of business, volume of business. But where appropriate, move to a data-driven model to get even greater clarity and more accurate results. Leverage those insights to drive performance, both across channels and within channels. And then ultimately, beyond insights and measurement, leverage predictive optimization to really drive the answer to the question, what should I do different? And then the last piece I'd like to mention before we dive into the main content for today's session is the Odometry Marketing to Results blog. And here, not only recapping these webinars with links to the replays and the PowerPoint slides, but also other great content around marketing analytics, marketing attribution, and trends in the industry. So if you get a chance, head over to odometry.com/blog, subscribe to the RS feed, and check out the content there. We also welcome guest posts, so if there's something, a point of view or a topic that you feel passionate about, we'd love to talk to you about possibly doing a guest post to share your ideas with the rest of our community. So with all the recap, let's dive into the main content for today. So as we look at a marketing performance management solution and the role of attribution within that solution, there's really kind of 4 quadrants of actions that we can see. And this is an all-inclusive list. It's an example list, but some things to think about. So as we're thinking about short-term tactical things, something maybe as simple as identifying the appropriate frequency cap for display on a specific network or on a specific site. Simple to do, easy to implement, but drives great value. As we move kind of to the right, bottom right, some still short-term items, but now more strategic. So looking at geographic targeting or segmenting my customers. Still easy to do, but tends to then drive kind of more strategic actions across your marketing activities. Upper left, we're looking at tactical long-term stuff. So really shifting budget within a channel or sequencing creative across channels. Some very kind of tactical moves I can make, but will ultimately have longer term effects. And then moving out towards long-term and strategic, customizing messaging, budget reallocation across channels, trying to optimize the conversion path. Some very kind of strategic things you can do, but it's going to take a little bit longer time to actually drive results from those activities. So just kind of a framework on how we like to think about some of the activities that are available to drive action. So let's talk first about some very specific examples of channel optimizations. So thinking about within each channel, what are some opportunities to leverage fully attributed performance to drive greater performance within that channel. The first one at the highest level really is an optimal allocation of budget within that channel. So whether it's display or an affiliate channel or a paid search channel, I'm making budget allocation decisions between kind of sub-channels or groups or tactics within that channel. So this is an example where a customer used our optimization, our predictive optimization engine to reallocate budget across tactics. Reallocated, actually increased the budget across the, so actually changed the budget amount within this channel and reallocated it across the specific tactics. The result was a 16% increase in conversions, as well as a 14% decrease in effective CPA. Looking specifically at the display channel, one of the questions we always get is about viewability when considering display as part of an attribution solution. We implement the IAB standard 50% of pixels in view for a minimum of a second. And so if it doesn't meet that criteria, we actually don't consider that impression as part of the attribution equation. Here's an example where a site, Refinery 29, has really high volume in terms of impressions and fairly low visibility compared to the average. So almost 74% not seen of those 10 million impressions. So really an opportunity here to take that budget and some of that investment and move it over to other places of adequate performance where we have much higher visibility. The result ultimately was a 14% decrease in eCPA across the display channel. Talked a little bit earlier about frequency capping, a very low-hanging fruit, easy thing to do, but surprisingly, you see a lot of opportunities for marketers to take advantage of this. So here's an example of a particular marketer where the recommended daily cap for turn was 13. So they basically put that on for both run a network and retargeting. Significant savings here, $600,000, lower CPA of about 38% by basically removing a lot of non-performing impressions due to too high a frequency. So really looking at placements and sites and what's the optimal frequency, kind of basically cutting it off around 90–95% of impressions that drive the ultimate outcome, and chopping off everything after that point. So really easy to implement and high value for a lot of marketers. Minimizing reach overlap for some of our customers. They really are looking to expand reach, and so looking at situations where they have high overlap across sites and networks. In this particular situation, Chango and Solve had a high overlap, looking at it on a performance basis. So the customer instituted cookie blocking, so Chango wouldn't show up after a Solve impression, so giving priority to Solve in terms of those impressions. So expanded their unique reach, but also saved money by basically minimizing the number of impressions that were being served to overlapping audiences. Looking at display channel, reallocating budget to better performing tactics. This was an example of looking at kind of a sub-tactic, turn run of network versus turn retargeting. And basically what we discovered here was there was a lot of upside and untapped potential in retargeting, and we're spending too much money on run of network. So a shift between those two tactics resulted in a 42% lift in average orders per day for turn placements, and then kind of ongoing testing and trying to optimize the right mix between run a network and targeting within turn. Looking at video, here's an example of an auto manufacturer, really first time being able to measure the impact of video on their customer journey and their funnel. So really what they found when they looked at it on a fully treated basis was that video was undercredited by about 10 to 20% when compared to a last click model. The real thing, a couple very interesting insights here was one, that in-stream actually performed worse on a fully attributed basis, but then also that 56% of the conversions that they saw in total, video acts as an introducer. So if you look at the funnel stage report on the bottom there, introducers, promoters, closers, video is by far the best performing introducer along with display. So really for these guys, it allowed them to actually have confidence in leveraging and understanding the performance of video as an introducer as part of their overall marketing mix, so they increased their budget in video. The other thing that was interesting was, kind of changed their focus around video from conversions to actually growing reach. So they drove a 98% increase in reach, so they focused on increasing their investment in reach, but not a much lower kind of associated budget with only a 65% increase in budget. So significantly leveraging video now to fill the top of the funnel and drive the additional channels below. Looking at audience insights, so a couple insights here for one of our customers. Two things they saw. One was that the 51 to 55 segment on kind of an index basis was not performing as well as the other segments for some reason, whether it was creative or product or specifically what it was. So real opportunity there to kind of reduce investment and impressions in that segment. On the other side of the coin, discovered an opportunity around segments that purchase gourmet cuisine products, frequent buyers of that, so an opportunity to up their investment in that affinity segment. Ultimate results was a 14% improvement in eCPA by shifting their spend across these various segments. Looking at paid search, there's a lot of opportunities around paid search to drive some optimizations. Here's one, pretty simple, but it gives you an idea of whether it's between providers or keyword groups or kind of sub-tactics, if you will, within paid search, is really looking at the performance and allocation across those groupings on a fully attributed basis. In this particular situation, on a fully attributed basis, MSN was actually performing much better than they thought it was on a last click basis. So actually an opportunity to move some spend for primary keywords into the MSN platform and drive a 7% increase in conversions while maintaining their ROAS target. Another opportunity around paid search is integrating your attributed results into your programmatic bidding platform. So taking your at the keyword level, attributed performance, pushing it into your platform, and that data being used as the dependent variable for your optimization algorithm within that platform. One customer we have is estimating a 3 to 5% improvement in efficiency by actually using fully attributed performance within that platform. And same story for real-time bidding on display. So you can do a very similar type of thing there as well. Affiliate. So a couple things around affiliate. I think particularly with affiliate, wanting to identify which affiliates are bringing net new customers into the fold. So which affiliates are, for the most part, single channel, single touch affiliates, and that first time the customer sees them is on that affiliate and ultimately drives the conversion event, compared to affiliates that are basically living off the other marketing that you're doing, whether it's display or search or email, where ultimately your marketing influenced the conversion and the affiliate was used at the end basically to take advantage of the discount. So once being able to identify those, being able to basically shift your priorities and your budgets across your affiliate publishers to making sure you're rewarding those who are driving net new customers and minimizing your investment in those who aren't. So here's an example. We looked at affiliate on a fully attributed basis. The cost per action was actually $6.72 higher, almost double than what they thought it was on a last click basis. So really shuffled the deck on their affiliate performance, looked at which ones were really performing, cut back on the ones that weren't. Ultimately pared out about $650,000 worth of spend on non-performing publishers. And basically those conversions were for the most part going to happen anyway, but yet the affiliate was getting credit and getting paid for it. And then looking at, across all your channels, actually, each one of the channels, you can do this sort of analysis, the efficacy of the role in the conversion path. So whether it's by tactic or it's by site, provider, publisher, or by creative, really looking at how each tactic and activity within each of the channels performs across the funnel. So is this channel, sub-channel or group within that channel predominantly an introducer, promoter, or closer? What's the appropriate offer, creative to support that role? Which sites or publishers perform better in terms of each one of those roles? And then using that understanding ultimately to inform your decisions in terms of investment levels, creative, and probably even sequencing and flighting across some of those. So now let's shift to a couple cross-channel optimizations, which tend to be a little bit more strategic. So here's an example of a customer who used our predictive optimization to basically reallocate budgets across channels. So moving from a starting amount to an optimal predicted amount, and shifting the budget across each of those channels resulted in 30% more conversions at a 23% lower eCPA. So, really taking advantage of incremental metrics across those channels, understanding where each channel is in terms of its diminishing returns, investing more money in channels with upside, pulling back money in channels that are overinvested in to find that optimal point and ultimately drive greater level of performance. Another advantage of doing this is creating a unified view of performance, really kind of getting to that apples-to-apples metric or comparison. You know, a lot of marketers, if they're doing this, are doing it in kind of data extracts, spreadsheets, and analyst time. So just having that one place where I can go to get a apples-to-apples comparison of that performance. So just here's an example of using ROAS as the key metric across all the channels and doing a comparative of performance. One of the things I like to talk about when I look at this is really thinking about what costs go into it so that you can actually get that apples-to-apples view. In this specific example, there's no cost associated with organic search, but I believe, and I know this for most marketers, there's investment made in organic search, whether it's people or tools such as BrightEdge or Conductor platforms. There's content being written to support organic search. So, you know, the farther back you can pull that cost data and associate with that with the channel, the more you can move to an apples-to-apples comparison. If you're just looking at media-only costs, it's really hard to get an effective understanding of how each channel is performing on a true cost basis. Cross-channel view also then is really understanding the interplay of channels. If you think about it, for the most part, we're organized and managed and measured on channel performance. So we've done a great job of optimizing the performance of each channel and the metrics within that channel. But we really don't have a lot of good insight into the interplay and opportunity to take advantage of performance across channels and how they perform in each other. So here's an example of just looking at lift reporting from search to display. And this specific example, display preceded by paid search has a 32% lift over paid search unassisted. So really, you know, intuitively makes sense, but really understanding the actual numbers and contribution of the interplay in display and search, and really using that information to understand, kind of help drive coordination of sequencing and creative across channels, including things like email. So understanding the role in the funnel, the lift that's provided by sequencing those events over time and then taking advantage of that. So with that, I'd like to introduce Brandon Mathia, President of Adaptive Audience, and Brandon's going to walk us through a case study for one of his clients.
Thank you, Casey. I'm very excited to share all the work that we've been doing together, Adaptive Audience and Audiometry, and more excited about some of the results that we've got to share with everyone. So first, let's address the big box retailer. The next slide. Big box retailer came to us, and they had traditionally been more focused on some traditional media, and their core customer base was aging, and they really didn't know how to shift their budget to focus more on the new customers. And then as far as the sales insights for their actual brick and mortar stores, they weren't sure how to properly measure online to offline, and then also they weren't sure what type of a messaging strategy should they be going out to market with. And obviously they're, you know, very concerned about the amount of discounts. You know, what is the right amount of discounts that they needed to give their core customers, but as well as the, you know, the new younger base. So a lot of questions that I think most brick and mortar retailers are asking themselves and their agencies. But in this particular instance, there's no e-com, so that was even more critical to their business. If you like the next slide, Casey. So we came up with a custom program for them, and basically we focused on integrating all the digital audiences, media, and all the different reporting together so that we could give them the most holistic view of their business. So we really wanted to focus on activating the audiences to improve accuracy. So we worked to onboard their existing CRM customer segments, and then we built some lookalike prospect modeling to find those new customers. For the media, we knew that they were doing a lot of, had successful programs in paid search and social and had dabbled in some display, but we needed to help them understand the full mix. And then they, particularly wanted to find out, how do I leverage programmatic display to get the inventory and reach audiences I want to without paying an arm and a leg. So we helped them with that. And then there's a ton of there's overload of data. They have all of these different tools to help them determine who their customers are and the audience and the demographics and psychographics and whatnot. They have all the website visitor data, and they have 20 different data platforms. So we help them integrate all of that together so that we could understand what are the actual offline, how do we tie that to the offline sale, and how do we help them figure out what offers are actually driving the sales. So the results, since we started this in Q2, Q2 we really focused on, let's get it set up and let's start that as a benchmark, so we have a baseline of data. And then Q3, we'll contrast that to see, have we improved over the business quarter. So the results we're very excited about. Increase in overall conversion rate across all audiences. And, you guys can see 38% there. We've dropped the overall cost per acquisition across digital 35%. And our main metric that we're using is return on ad spend. As long as this is consistently moving up, everyone's happy. So over the business quarter, 33% lift there. Now, all of this is possible at a high level because we were adjusting everything at such a micro level, which obviously the partnership with Odometry is what's really brought that to life. So we took a lot of time in to set this up, the campaign architecture up front, so that we could answer very specific questions, and then the folks at Odometry really, again, brought that to life. So on the next slide, we'll take a look at the audience work that we've been doing.
Sorry about that.
Casey?
Yeah, hold on. Should be coming here. Oops, hold on. There we go. User error. My bad.
No problem. So I mentioned we were doing customer onboarding. So we worked with the retailer pretty in depth to help them segment their overall CRM files. So, who were the customers that were converting, what did they look like, and how do we build overall brand segmentation personas that they can then build out a robust program across their digital channels. So we then onboarded those specific, persona customer segments, and then we also onboarded more of the transactional records so that we could do more of a reach frequency, customer value type of campaign as well. So overall lift there, does onboarding actually work? We're seeing that it's driving a 56% lift in conversion. Again, that's over quarter. And then as far as the prospecting to reach the new customers, we worked with those same CRM records, and we just indexed that to probably 60 different data partners to find the right lookalike models. And so we layered that onto the campaign, as well as built what we're referring to as data segmentation profiles. So we pick one data partner and bounce the customer records against that so that we can see how it indexes, and then layer that onto the buy for prospecting as well. At the end of the day there, the lookalike models that we put together driving a 32% increase in conversion rate over the general average of the campaign. So audience accuracy from the customer and the prospect, again, consistently improving that over time. Each one of these audience profiles that we're running generally has probably between 30 to 50 different attributes. And so as we set these up, the way that we're structuring the campaigns and tagging it for Odometry to report on, it's at a very granular level. That way we're actually able to test and prove which specific attributes are actually driving media efficiency and offline conversion. So on the next slide, we'll look at the media efficiency piece. So we knew that they had some successful programs going, with search and social and whatnot. They believed in the power of display, and we just needed to work with them to really prove that out. So, we Casey actually just went through the lift report, so that's the report I'm referencing here, but we were actually able to see a 31% lift pretty consistently. So we've been doing this for a couple of quarters now, and it's around 30 to 50% lift when we use search and display together. So having the proof of that, I think, helps the broader organization believe in it and push forward with some new strategies and new campaigns. But then when you couple that report with the overall funnel stage so that we can see that display is actually introducing customers and then they come back at a later time on a keyword, that has helped us really shift the overall strategy of the campaigns and think about, what role does each channel play in the overall mix. And then as far as programmatic display, we layered in a lot of different targeting types, and really Q3 was really focused on how do we leverage all the different targeting types within programmatic display, if that meant premium publishers or just contextual or predictive algorithms. What role does each one of those targeting types play in the overall mix? In this example, at a big box retailer, there's always going to be some degree of brand sensitivity. So they were focused on, we want brand safety, we want we're really concerned with ad viewability, and we want some premium placements, but obviously we want it at the most efficient way that we can get it. So we set up our programmatic buys with a customized list of premium publishers, and then layered on, with programmatic, all the different brand safety and ad viewability. At the end of the day, those premium sites had a much, much higher CPM and a much higher cost per click that, they would have normally been afraid to continue to invest money in. But when we see the actual offline, cost per transaction, return on ad spend, and conversion rate were all much, much better. So here you see a 37% drop in cost per transaction, even though we were paying those higher costs for that premium site placement. So again, just a more efficient way to get that premium placements. On the next slide, we'll take a look at the insights bit. So they wanted to reduce coupon dependency. And so as we set up all of their different, customer CRM profiles and then the prospect profiles, we wanted to test out how much do we need to discount, and then just what's the overall best messaging and best creative and best images to drive interactions. So we set that up with dynamic ad units that would, basically just dynamically populate different imagery, different text, and different, percent coupons and just store sales, promotional messaging, and we tested that out. Overall, the results here, we see a 70% increase in return on ad spend just using dynamic versus just regular flash ads. But then within that, we were able to prove out, for each of the different audience segments, what's the messaging strategy, what's the offers that are going to drive results. So again, that piece was pretty much changed not only the direction of the digital messaging, but the insights from that and the results from that have actually adjusted the overall brand messaging strategy for the retailer. So big changes there. And then probably the one that their CEO cared the most about was the actual store sales in the DMA level. How do I move the needle, per DMA? So in this example, I just picked, one kind of off-the-wall market that really stood out for conversion rate versus, one that typically drives just a lot of volume. So New York at, 0.1 and Austin at 0.3, offline sales conversion rate. No one would really have expected Austin to be so much higher. So this is just one of, obviously several different DMAs to look at. But what we've done with this is match this up with their actual, total offline store sales POS system. And so we're actually able to adjust and allocate the budgets and the actual strategy per store. So we've now got a list of, digital savvy markets that we're, our plan is to invest higher digital budgets in. And then we've got our markets where it's just going to be a print market. They're older groups and they just want a coupon. So, we may not invest as heavily in digital in those specific markets. So, again, none of this this level of insight would have been possible without that, offline sales measurement and then the different attribution components of that. So next slide, Casey. So again, overall quarterly performance, those are just, it's a quick snapshot of some of the detailed metrics, but at the end of the day, as long as we're able to say we are consistently improving, the accuracy, efficiency, and efficacy of these metrics, at the end of the day, we're doing a good job, and we're going to be able to keep pushing this thing forward. So some of the things that we've got in queue that we're planning to launch now, which Casey covered a few of these, the audience data insights reports. So I mentioned that we had aligned our targeting strategy with their CRM, and so their CRM happens to be Acxiom. So now we're importing the Acxiom data into this so that we can say if they over-index for segment A, then we can look at the actual offline store sales and see how it indexed against that same data set. So it's just continuity of segmentation across all possible touch points, from CRM to targeting and now into our actual sales reports. We covered the budget optimization model. We've been using that over the past quarter, but we're really going to ramp that up this coming quarter. And then we've been using Validate, but I don't think we've really been maximizing that to full capability. So that's something that we're going to be looking into. And then not on the slide, but Casey mentioned this. Remember, the programmatic bidding integration is something that we have been working on it, and integrating that audience data into the search campaigns is something that I'm very excited to get going this quarter, and I can't wait to see the results from that. So with that said, I hope that was interesting and somewhat educational for the group, and I look forward to any questions you guys have.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate that. So let me go ahead and cover the key takeaways, and we'll open up to Q&A. So really thinking about realizing results from your investment. For most marketers, there's a huge opportunity sitting in the top of the funnel that's enabled by a full funnel attribution solution. So looking at viewability, frequency, reach, and audiences. Typically see two things. People aren't doing a lot of display because they've not been able to measure it well and have trouble financially justifying it, or they're doing a lot of display and don't have the measurement to actually really do it well. So regardless of which camp you're in, there's some good opportunities there. For search, affiliate, email, other kind of middle of funnel or bottom of the funnel media, there's tons of opportunities to adjust based on a new view of performance, right? Which groups and subgroups perform well, how can I sequence, creative, etc. Identifying group performers by stage, and then integrate with the programmatic platforms. And then as you look across channels, opportunities to not only optimize budget allocations, but really start looking at the interdependencies and how the channels work together and leverage your campaign creative and sequencing across those. So we do have a couple questions here. So one of the questions I'll go ahead and tackle. It's how do you handle multi-device tracking? Fairly complex issue, and there's not, frankly, one simple answer. So it comes across, there's a lot of different ways to solve this problem. First part of the problem is device identification for in situations where you can't put a third-party cookie, whether it's iOS or it's a mobile app or you've got cookie blocking or things like that. You need techniques to actually do something else other than a third-party cookie. So whether it's using the advertising IDs out of the apps, it's doing some device profiling or implementing first-party cookies as well. There's a combination of techniques you can use there to actually identify devices. Once you have devices identified, now you actually need to move to users rather than devices. Definitely through some partnerships with companies like Tapad and some others, as well as some proprietary technologies, building out a device graph that basically starts connecting unique devices to unique users and doing attribution at the user level versus the device level. This question for Brandon. How did you measure offline sales without a coupon a user got online? So Brandon, if you could talk a little bit about the point of sale data onboarding, that would be great.
Sure. In our deal with Odometry, they're pulling in LiveRamp, and LiveRamp is our match partner. So they're taking that data from the CRM itself, and through their match network, they're saying, this name and address of, Brandon Bethea, this name and address, we're going to match that to an anonymous cookie from a match network. And once that connection is made, then they basically just connect all the online activity to that offline sales record.
Cool, great. Yeah, LiveRamp's a partner of Odometry. Companies such as Datalogix, Axiom, probably some others have similar types of offerings where they're connecting PII to anonymous tracking cookies, so you can, through a match, basically connect the CRM transactions to online activities, online advertising. Another question, and I'll take this one, and Brandon, if you want to chime in, you can. It's really the question of a couple degrees of separation from online media to offline events, and the question was more around buying a car at a dealership. We have a lot of auto customers, so they'll typically use a mid-funnel action, whether it's schedule a test drive or configure a car, as a proxy for an ultimate purchase. Dealership purchase data is difficult to get to. Polk has it. And part of the challenge I think you have with an attribution solution using that type of data is a long purchase cycle. I don't know what the average is for auto, but I'm guessing it's probably at least 2 to 3 months, maybe even longer. So in some of those situations, you probably use a softer conversion event as your attribution metric, and understand kind of its role as a proxy for an ultimate purchase. Any other thoughts on that, Brandon?
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay, well, sometimes better be lucky than good. Cool. So with that, I think we've answered most of the questions. Once again, I want to thank everybody for attending. We'd love to see you at the XCMO Summit, xcmo.com. And if you get a chance, stop by the Odometry blog for a recap of this webinar, the replays and the slides, as well as the previous sessions. Once again, thanks for Brandon. Awesome job. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.